Hi, YouTubers, and welcome to a new slot in the channel where it's supposed to be four of us, but at the moment, three of us will virtually gather around a little coffee table and discuss anything AMG, anything at all. No bars held. So, in the top left corner, we got Maurizio. You've heard of an Englishman in New York. This is an Italian in Tokyo. Say hello, Maurizio.
Hey Shane, hey Joe.
Down the bottom, we have Jewel. He can't decide whether he's Italian or French, but either way, he's a wonderful guy. Say hello, Jules.
Buongiorno, bonjour. I'll figure it out later.
We should be having another guy from Canada joining us called Brad. Yeah, he puts the sweet in the maple syrup, but he's not here, so maybe he'll join us later. Who knows? I'm going to kick off this discussion with what is AMG to you? And actually, before we go into that, sort of tied to it, what do you think of the new CLA 45 AMG, the all EV? What's your views on this new car?
I would say electrifying.
Ooh, I like that. You've been thinking about it, huh?
Yeah, that's a lot of words there, Jules.
I
I
mean,
mean, go on, mate. So you was going to say?
nah, look, it to me is mind blowing. First of all, it looks good. For today's cars, it looks good. Much
Yeah.
better than the non-AMG model, right?
For the viewers,
But
I'm
if you,
going to pop up on the screen what this car looks like. So we'll do that.
no, it looks great. And if you just look at how much car you get for, we still don't know pricing, but it's entry level. Oh, it's amazing. 680 horsepower. You got 1700 newton meters of torque, 2.7 seconds, 0 to 100.
That's crazy,
And
isn't it?
it's supposed to drive great with the 4MATIC Plus. And, the actual power to weight ratio is really up there with some of the best, much higher grade cars and electric cars, right? So,
Yeah.
what do I
Look,
think about it? I think that it's great.
looking at the images of it, I'm really pleased that it doesn't have the Timu light bar at the front because
I think we were hurt. Some of us were with Lena in that dark room that we can't talk about a few months ago. And I think that Timu Lightbar got so much bad press, at least from the people present at the time, that apparently they turned it the other way around. Rather than being an option to remove it, it's now an option to add it. And I think that would have been the only pinch of bad taste on that car, because this is the kind of design gimmicks that gets old the minute you see it. So you have it on Teslas, you have it on Kias. Okay, they're done. It's already deja vu. Throw it away. Don't add it to a sports car. Having said this, you were mentioning prices, Maurizio. I can tell you that the base price, no heavy. I mean, before the really punishing taxes, we're talking about a car that's about 60,000 euros base price in Europe. So you have to add local taxes like in France because of the weight, local taxes in other countries. Let's say all packaged together, we're around the sweet price point of 75,000 euros, maybe 80,000 euros before you start adding some options. This is extremely electrifying. If you consider how much a fully loaded CLA 400 actually is, this becomes very, very, very appetizing.
you think it's a good price point?
I think the sweet spot, considering this is the entry-level A45 replacement, can't be much higher than, say, base bottom rock bottom price around 60,000, 65,000. I remember having that conversation. I think that 75,000, which is where we're going to be for regular prices somewhere around the European market, is great. Because having that car around 100,000 doesn't make any sense. Who's going to buy that if you consider the market?
Yeah. Well, especially when just over 100,000, you can get the GT4 four-door, the new GT four-door. My concern with this car is the same as it is with the GT4. And it goes back to my original point I was going to raise about what is AMG to you. I appreciate why they're doing the sound of the V8. I get it. And I actually kind of agree with it. However, I can't get away from the point that when you listen to it from the outside, it sounds like a milk float with a megaphone on it trying to do an engine noise. You know, in the UK, we had these electric milk floats that went around, and they just put a megaphone on it with an engine sound on it to make you think it's got an engine. You can clearly hear that it's coming from a speaker. I don't know how you fix that. I don't know if you need to get better quality speakers. I don't know. I really don't know. But it does detract from the fact that when you're standing behind both the GT 4-door and the CLA 45, you can clearly hear it's a speaker blasting out that sound. Maybe it's a different experience when you're inside it and you're driving it, but from people outside,
it actually shakes the seats, so
yes.
it's funny.
But when you're outside, how's that going to be?
Well, hold on. I'll flip this around, Shane. I mean, how about that car sounds like a stupid Renault on electric, which really sounds lame. How about this sounds like a stupid Tesla that you can hear coming around, or maybe you don't hear it.
Yeah.
And actually it sounds very lame. So in a way, yeah, okay, it's plastic, it's fake, it's whatever you want, but it doesn't sound like an EV. So I'll check the box for that one. Okay, they nailed it. Okay, it sounds like crap because it's a crappy little engine. Fine. It sounds like it's a crappy little loudspeaker. It can maybe be made a bit better, yes. But look at the alternatives on the road.
Yeah. No, I get it. And I'm reserving my judgment because I've not driven the car. I think when you drive the car, you can probably get a better overall feeling and understanding of the car. My observation was just maybe they need to upgrade the speaker quality at the back of the
car. Let's do a little bit of Fast and Furious or whatever. Let's see if we can make the sound system a little better. I'm sure some people will invent something. But pardon me, Maurizio, you were going to say something about it.
No, I'm going to say if that's the issues, that's what we've been talking about for the last couple of minutes. I think AMG's done a great job.
Yeah,
think about it, right? Because I know, and we know that. I mean, certainly the GT 4-door drives great. I expect the CLA 45 to also drive great, and I think that is really what we want, right? Whether it sounds a little bit off, well, you could even say the current 35 models sound off because they don't have that big, 6.2 liter naturally aspirated sound, right? So it is always going to be a compromise. But one thing I want to highlight is I get the feeling that the direction the company is going will be you're still going to get the V8s and the powerful inline six for your 63s and 53 models, but down there the 45s and maybe even 35s will all be electric because I don't think they can produce both ICE cars and electric cars at that level further down the spectrum quality or not quality, but in terms of the grade of the car. So we may be facing a situation where entry level will just be electric. What do you guys think?
Well, I think this was going back to what is AMG to you. I've always been of the opinion that an AMG should be the full fat V8, huge exhaust sound. However, saying that, my very first AMG was a C36, so a six-cylinder, and the one I'm driving now, an SLC 43, is a V6. So, is my thinking really relevant? Of course not. So I think it comes down to the emotion, and if they can get that emotion and that thrill, that bonkers thrill that you get from AMGs, if they can get that out of electric cars, yeah.
Look,
it could be good.
It's an electric, so it's good on the drag strip. It's definitely accelerating much faster than the outgoing petrol version. It's a good-looking car. The platform, the CLA platform, is what it is. It's an entry level, but it's designed to look quite nice.
Mm.
and it isn't too bad. Um, so when it comes to your question, I think the four pot is going to go out of production at some point because it can't be sold on the European market. So we might see it in remaining emerging markets, maybe say South Africa, where you have zero charging for EVs, or some other markets where the four pot is actually being sold. But I think it's going to become a niche type of product. I think the real danger or the real difficulty is that we have a very vivid used car market, and to a lot of people, considering that you have to have, especially in Europe, those driving helpers, like it starts shouting at you when you go 1 kilometer faster than the limit or whatever it thinks the limit is, because it never gets it right anyway.
Yeah.
That might actually get so much in the way that I think that for this kind of performance car, the driving experience could be nicer in electric, but because of regulations, it's probably going to be not as nice as it could be, and it could send some people back to older cars that don't have that kind of problem. So I think the biggest danger to this car picking up on the market is how vivid the used car market is going to be.
Yeah.
And can I add the point there? I think my secondary concern, and I agree with you, Joe, is that, if you buy a few years back, if you bought a 35 model or a 43 or 45, you'd aspire to get a 53, a 55, a 63. It's a natural progression. I'm not sure now if all the entry-level cars will be electrified, that the next step is a V8 63. Also because the mindset of the buyer is likely to be different than people like us. So I'm hoping the company doesn't put themselves in a corner and get stuck in a difficult, market situation.
Yeah. It will be interesting to see how the future goes. Anyway, that's what I want to bring to the table. What have you guys got? Anything you want to chat about?
Well, I had a question that I wanted you guys to give me a little bit of insights, because obviously I'm in Japan, whole different world from many reasons. I'm curious, what's the typical AMG owner that you've come across in your countries?
Look, I was with non-typical AMG owners no later than yesterday and was having interesting conversations. And I would think that, interestingly, other than people who actually have one toy car, the owners that I met yesterday all have more than one AMG. So they're enthusiasts. They like the brand. They like the car. They like the cars so much. I mean, I was talking with some French gentleman yesterday who actually owns two different SLK 55s. Just because it's so much fun. He has one for track and one for like collector type status. And I find the approach quite interesting. Plus, he has definitely multiple other AMGs before that. So I would say, yes, the cliche is definitely 50-year-old white male. Yes. However, some people have gotten the bug earlier than others. That gentleman that I was talking with has bought his first AMG when he was 40. So I think it sort of makes it a little bit different. And another gentleman that I met is actually a member of the French club, the French MB club, and the guy is 23, and he has, hold tight, an S63, a CLS 63. The reason behind it is, young, smart kid making quick money with a company he set up himself from scratch, and an interest for cars. And when he went shopping for cars, his view of it is, well, I have to drive lots of kilometers. I would like a large, comfortable car, but I would still like the car to have a little bit of oomph, and I would like it to sort of fly below the radar on the highway and so on. And the guy just quickly made up his mind. So if money doesn't get too much in the way, and we're talking used cars anyway, if you want I would say the performance and sort of fly below the radar, this is where you're going, and that makes it very interesting, because then the people you meet are not like throw in your face new rich that actually throw money around, but more smart spenders that will, set aside money to do smart things for themselves, and probably will have a much more relaxed approach to, say, buying stuff in general, how they buy even their own shoes, or what they do, their leisure, whatever. They will have a slightly different approach.
Yeah, I think so. The UK, I would talk about UK and Portugal, and they are very completely different. I'll start off with Portugal. The average Portuguese that's got an AMG, they keep it more in the garage than they do going out. They do not let people know. And hence, when we try and arrange member gatherings in Portugal, it's quite hard, because they'd rather just keep it in their garage and keep quiet about it. There seems to be this sort of thing about they don't want to show off the fact that they've got an AMG. I find it a bit weird, because they're quite happily drive around in Mercedes-Benz. But as soon as it's got the AMG badge on it, it's like, oh, no, let's keep quiet about that. We don't want people knowing. I don't know why that is, but that seems to be the general feeling in Portugal. In the UK, it's a mixed bag, but predominantly it seems to be the younger AMG owners love the pops and the bangs, and they'll sit their car on the side of the road and just rev it until it kills it, because they want to hear the sound of it. It's a very different vibe in the UK in general. I tend to find that those AMG owners that have got the older cars, they tend to not be so much in clubs and stuff, but they just own it because they know it's a nice car. It does what they want from it, and it's kind of like, yeah, we're just happy with that. But the younger generation in the UK tend to be like, they're really flamboyant, and they love all the newer AMGs that had all the the spoilers and wings and stuff on it. Because remember, earlier AMGs were very understated. They were literally like, you would never know unless you knew. Whereas the newer AMGs are very much in your face, and I think that's appealed a lot to the younger generation in the UK. It's a mixed bag. But as I say, I think the younger generation are very much like, they like to flaunt the AMG stuff, whereas the maybe the older cars are very much like, yeah, we'll turn up if we feel like it, but it's nothing major for us. What's it like in Tokyo then? What would you say it's like in Japan?
So, I mean, here again, I'm picking it up. I think, well, you guys know, the audience may know, but we organize events in our local jurisdictions, and I've learned a lot from people about how the brand is seen. What surprises me, I've heard from many people that a lot of the owners have no idea what they're buying, meaning they want to buy an MB, a Mercedes-Benz, and they look at the list of cars available and say, oh, I'm well off, I'll buy the top graded one, which happens to be the AMG version. So they're driving a Mercedes-Benz there. It just happens to be a little bit spicier. And then you have, and that's probably the majority, and then you have the enthusiasts that tend to have some degree of connection with other Europe, German cars, engineering. There's something that brings them to the table, right? It's not just they picked it out of nothing, of thin air. But they do tend to be a little bit older. I mean, there's a couple of communities out there of some younger folks that tend to have the like 35 and 45 models, and they do their own little thing sometimes. And exactly like the UK, they like their spoilers, they like those. I mean, of course, Japan, they like to modify cars, slam them, change that camber on the tires and whatnot. So, I think the community that I sort of manage and spend time with. We tend to be slightly older, a little bit more quiet. We like to do our driving up in the mountains as well. So,
Yeah.
but generally, it's just the more subdued, let's just enjoy what we have type of ownership.
Yeah. It's quite cool that AMG just encompasses quite a vast array of personalities, and people I've met. I mean, even you two guys meeting you through AMG, basically. Wow, we probably would never have crossed paths in any other way, but AMG has brought us together, and it is quite nice to see the range of personalities and the way people behave with their AMGs.
I think Brad has an interesting story about that, but unfortunately, he's not here. Yeah, no, absolutely. I think everyone loves cars in general.
Yeah.
At least the people I've come across, they're not, or at least that we attract into the group is not, they don't look down on other brands or no, they just love cars. It just happens to be AMG. There's a story behind whether they like the understated look, which is my thing. The fact they're sleepers, the muscle car of Europe, the engineering, just the quality and a little bit crazy added to it.
The bonkersness of it is definitely
huge.
But that bonkers can be interpreted, as you say, in different ways. To bonkers to some people could be the massive sound or the ridiculous speed, or it could be the fact that it's bonkers that it looks like just a normal regular saloon and yet it can keep up with a Ferrari. The bonkers can be interpreted in any way. But I definitely think that word, for me, encapsulates AMG. Yeah.
I wouldn't have much to add. I mean, I'm very much into that understatement. So if I were to summarize anyway, what's AMG, take a regular Mercedes, tune the chassis so that it handles properly like a race car or a really sporty car. Throw the biggest engine you have at hand in it and make it look understated. And you get, Uncle Hans Werner's recipe for success. So if the biggest engine you have now is an EV, let it be.
Yeah. And I kind of get what you're saying with the older AMGs. In a straight line, they were very fast. But as soon as it come to corners, it was game over. And obviously AMG learnt their lessons, and by the time we got to the GT, that car handles perfectly, road or track or whatever. But I think when you were saying about, you get a big engine AMG and then you'll have to maybe do the suspension on it and whatever else to really hone in. I think that's very valid of older AMGs, definitely. Yeah.
Older and not so old. And ask me why I'm telling you this.
We know why you're telling us this, but so Jules has got an amazing C63 AMG. What do you call it? We called it an estate, but you called it something else. What do you call it?
We call it the station wagon.
Station wagon, yeah. But it handles so well. I mean, it's so flat around the corners, but that's because you have done your modifications. What have you done to yours?
Fairly basic in the end. Coilovers at the front, meaning actually not track oriented because it's progressive springs, but essentially I went for the full kit from Bilstein and no specific recommendations there. But actually it's a good value for money considering how it really changes the handling. One of the recurring complaints about the C-Class 204 is that it has a fairly bouncy back end, especially in station wagon form. It really bounces off the street. And mine is not an S or performance version, it's just a regular basic version. But I had to change the shock absorbers anyway. So, once you're there and you're going to pay whatever Mercedes money to get the OEM ones, the marginal cost of putting some real race-oriented stuff was actually limited. So it's very enjoyable. It sits a little bit lower. I had to set them to the highest possible. They're fully adjustable. I mean, the kit that you have for this car is an adjustable Bilstein kit. And yes, it's definitely stiffer. Plus, the progressive springs technically are designed to keep your car flat, but because essentially as you compress on one side, the spring rate gets higher, and as you depress on the other side, the spring rate is lower, so effectively compensates for body roll. So that's actually very nice. And it's a mechanical feature, not anything about technology, which sits really well with the C63 that has like zero electronics on suspension. And then changed a few bushings to polybush, and that played the trick.
It is a very good ride, having been in as a passenger. Yeah.
So
Yes.
you're gonna give me a ride next time, right?
Definitely. I can't wait until we see you again. And I'm hearing November is the date. No other comment on this one, but I look forward to taking you around.
Well, I guess, guys, on that note, we'll put this show into park and say goodbye to everyone. So we hope to do this as a regular thing, maybe at least once a month. Maybe next time Brad will join us from Canada.
Hopefully.
But I hope you've enjoyed it, guys, and I'm going to get on with my drink and then watch the Formula One. So I see you all.